Hello and welcome to a Minecraft tutorial by me, Malo the Cloud. And today I'm going to be showing off a super efficient mob farm and experience grinder. Now, the original design of this is based on a nether wart farm that was designed by Exumavoid. This is also loosely similar to a design by Ilmango, but the redstone timing and dispenser circuits are going to be much simpler in this design. Another advantage of this design is that it allows you to kill mobs, except for spiders, on your own for quick experience, mending, and the like. You can go from level 0 to level 30 in under 5 minutes, which the clip that's currently displaying now is showing. And with looting on your sword, you get all of the mob drops, again except for the spiders, more quickly. Now, it's absolutely possible to use a regular drop shaft and kill design at the bottom like the one Ilmango used, which would make the design much simpler, but I'm going to be highlighting the experience grind design. Now, another advantage to this design is that it's fully AFKable without any additional redstone or effort, as long as you have the max entity cramming rule on, because once the max number of entities fall into the kill zone, then they die on their own. So you can choose to either use it as an experience grinder, actively, or AFK and just get a bunch of items that way. Another advantage to this design is that the spawning platforms are fully modular, meaning you don't have to use my exact design of 13 platforms, but can choose to add or remove platforms and move your AFK spot up or down, depending on your needs. So if, for example, you're building over a wide ocean and you know that you have extra breathing room to not worry about mobs spawning down on the ground, then you can add in additional platforms. But this 13 platform design basically assumes you're building above a spawnable area at Y64, and it'll put you just outside of reach of mobs spawning down below. As I mentioned earlier, an advantage is that this design has very easy redstone, largely thanks to Exumavoid's nether wart design. It uses relatively few resources for such a high spawn rate, and just to give you an idea of about how long it'll probably take you to build this, I estimate that it would take about 2 hours for one person to build in survival, give or take an hour depending on how fast you build. So without further ado, let's get started. Here are the materials you're going to need. Now I've separated them into 4 shulker boxes. Each one represents a specific part of the build. Now you don't have to do it this way, obviously. You can collect them into your own treasure chests or shulker boxes however you want. Of course, in shulker boxes they're easier to bring up, but that's not 100% necessary. So in the first shulker box, the brown shulker box, these are the items that are going to be used for the mob catchment, transport, and murder, as well as the platform you're going to stand on while you either murder mobs or stand AFK. These first blocks, what I have as the brown concrete and quartz slabs, represent the blocks that you're going to need to build your mob catchment area, which is the area that mobs fall off of their spawning platforms onto. You'll need 352 full blocks and 56 half slabs. The glass represents the mob transport area. It doesn't have to be glass, but there are areas where you can get spawns if it's not glass, so you'd have to make sure to cover them up with additional half slabs if you choose to use something spawnable. There are 583 total blocks needed for mob transport. The signs are to direct water flow. The additional 16 slabs and 2 stairs are for the area you're going to stand in, and the yellow concrete just represents a marker in the center for you. The torch is going to be needed to light up the area you stand in, just in case. 2 chests are to collect all the mob drops, and the 25 hoppers are to send them towards the chests. And the 9 magma blocks are the killing spot for the spiders. Now we're additionally going to be pushing these magma blocks into hopper minecarts so that the spider drops can be collected. The next shulker box, the one that I have labeled as a black shulker box, represents all of the blocks needed for the 13 platforms. Now, since this build is modular, you don't have to build 13 platforms, but 13 is the correct number if you're going to start at level 192 and go up to build limit, and you want the maximum number of spawning platforms that you can build. If you don't have this many resources on you just yet, you can always build fewer platforms and have a temporary dummy set up for the rest of them, and I'll briefly show you how to do that while I'm building the platforms. For each of the 13 platforms, you'll need 112 full blocks, 1 dispenser, and 1 observer block, for a total of 1,456 full blocks, 13 dispensers, and 13 observers. In the third shulker box, we have the materials for the roof, and for the redstone timing circuits used to dispense the water to push the mobs off the platforms, which I have chosen to put on top of the roof and out of the way of all the mobs spawning. For the roof, you're going to need a total of 926 slabs, some of which will be made into full blocks. And for the redstone circuits, we're going to need 2 hoppers, 13 total redstone, 6 comparators, 2 repeaters, 3 sticky pistons, 4 blocks to send redstone into, 1 block of redstone, and we don't actually need these redstone torches, so ignore those. But we will need 3 torches to keep everything nice and well lit. And finally, in the blue shulker box, we have additional items that didn't fit in any of the other shulker boxes. We have 13 water buckets, 1 for each platform. We have 9 minecarts with hoppers, which, as I said earlier, will be inside of magma blocks to collect spider drops. And then we have 5 items that won't actually go into the build itself, but we will need to actually complete the build. Now, technically, we only need 1 lever and 1 piston and 3 rails, but it's going to be a lot easier if we have 9 rails, 6 pistons, and 3 levers, because some of the pistons are going to get sucked into some of the hoppers, and all of the rails are going to get sucked into some of the hoppers. But the purpose of the pistons, levers, and rails is to push those magma blocks into the minecarts with hoppers, and we'll show you how to do that in the tutorial. And finally, these 2 water buckets are to create infinite water sources, which we can then use to place in all of the necessary areas to move mobs around. We're going to actually end up needing 122 total water buckets, but those are going to come from our infinite water sources that we're going to build along the way. Other than that, we only need some scaffolding blocks, and I have plenty here just in case, and some ladders for ease of movement. And that's all we need for the materials. And the first step to building this structure is to find a suitable location, and that just involves going out somewhere where you're not that close to a spawnable area. So I've just found these couple little islands out in the middle of the ocean. You could go above the ocean anywhere, really, just as long as you're more than 128 blocks away from a spawnable area where you're going to be sitting, which is going to be level 192, and that's where we're going to want to pillar up to first. So let's go ahead and turn our F3 on and pillar up to 192. Alright, as you can see, we are now at Y level 192, so we will go ahead and make ourselves a platform, just a temporary platform, to be able to do some work up here without worrying about falling off. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm just going to make it 3 by 3. It doesn't really matter how big it is because this is just temporary, like I said. And we'll go ahead and dig out this middle block for now, and that way we can, oops, didn't mean to dig 2 of them. There we go. And that way we can place a yellow block there. So we want to grab our brown shulker box and grab our yellow block, or whatever block you want to place here. This is just to mark the central location of the build. And there's actually no real need for this block here, but we're gonna use it anyway. So then we want to grab out these 16 quartz slabs here, as well as we're going to need the quartz stairs, the chests, the hoppers, the torch, and you see I also have torches in my offhand, the magma blocks, and then we'll also grab some of the glass. In fact, we'll just grab all of the glass and all of the signs because we can fit everything in our inventory. There we go. And then we'll grab the brown shulker box back. There we go. Now the next step is we want to build a little bit more of the platform, the AFKing platform, or I guess non-AFKing platform as well, the platform that we're going to be doing all our standing in. So let's place a quartz slab on top of the yellow block there, and then quartz stairs facing each direction like that. Next, we're going to want to place a chest behind this left quartz stair here, and we're going to do that by placing a block back like that, and then another block behind it. And we'll also place a block next to that block. And so these black blocks that I'm placing right now are just scaffolding blocks, or temporary blocks. They're not actually part of the final build. There we go. So we put our chest in there. You're actually going to want to extend this platform out another, say, 5 blocks, because you're going to want somewhere to land without having to fall all the way down and coming back up when you complete the spider area above. Next, we're going to build pretty much the toughest part of the farm, which is the spider collection area. And that's tough because we have to get these magma blocks pushed into, well, I should say we need to get some hopper minecarts pushed into these magma blocks, and we'll talk about that once we get up there. But for now, let's go ahead and start building the hoppers that we're going to need for the collection system. So we're going to build back from the, well, I have to stand back here real quick. We're going to build back from the chest, 1, 2, 3, and then we're going to build up 1, oh, that would be the torch. We're going to need to stand on the edge like that, and then build up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then here, we're going to build, we're going to funnel a couple hoppers in. So this here, 1 here, like so. And then this is going to be our 3x3 main collection area, and we're also going to have one other little bit of hopper collection back here, like so. Next, we want to build glass all the way around, except in a few areas where we're going to need to push pistons in. So let's go ahead and start that. So we need to put a block here, and then glass on top, and then go ahead and destroy the temporary scaffolding, and continue placing the glass around like so. Okay, and once we've got our glass around like this on 3 sides, plus I put some glass behind here for now as well, we're going to go ahead and build out a 2-block deep little area of scaffolding back here, and that'll be for placing pistons against, as you'll see. And we'll go ahead and start by placing 3 rails like so. And then we want to grab 3 minecart hoppers out of the chest here. Place 1 on one side, 1 on the other, and 1 in the middle. And then a very important step is to remove the rails before pushing the magma blocks in with the pistons. And if you don't remove the rails, then bad things happen. So do remember to remove the rails. Alright, so then we're going to go ahead and place the magma blocks and not stand on them. And then place the 3 levers and then push the magma blocks into the hoppers. Now we should be able to throw items on top of the magma blocks, and they'll be sucked into the minecart hoppers, which are in the blocks, and then down through the hoppers below. Next, we're going to want to repeat this process 2 more times, 1 for this row and then 1 for the following row. So we're going to take out one of these rows of black concrete, put the pistons against the next row, and then put the minecart rails and then minecarts with hoppers on top, remove the rails, put the magma blocks, and continue the process. Once we've got all 9 magma blocks on top of all 9 hopper minecarts, we can go ahead and remove all the scaffolding and all of the pistons, which we no longer need, and then finish the glass around the back here. Next, you'll want to build out 1 more from each of these glass platforms, and then come out another one with the scaffolding block, and place another set of glass on top, like so. We're just building a little area for water to flow so that the spiders can't escape. And once you have it looking like this all the way around, we're going to want to grab 2 buckets, and we'll go ahead and make an infinite water source off of the edge here. Once we have that temporary infinite water source there, we're going to go ahead and grab our signs, and we want to place them on the magma blocks like this, all the way around. Then we're going to want to place our water sources like that. And actually, this makes an infinite water source for us already as well, so we can actually go ahead and remove this one and continue placing the water around the outside. Once we have our water in place like that, we're going to go ahead and cap this area off. And this is what it should look like. Now finally, we're going to build the area that the spiders are going to fall into, and it should be centered right on our center block if we've done things correctly. So we're going to want to build a 5x5 platform out past the 2 blocks that we have here. And as you can see, our 5x5 platform is indeed right over our center block, so that's perfect. Then we want to build walls around this, and then we'll need to make another temporary infinite water source like this with our 2 water buckets. One there and one there. That way we can place water in each of these corners here and get some water back. Then we can fill that in and break it down. So now, as you can see, we have water flowing towards the center and then pushing the spiders this way. And now you can see why we have the hopper right here, which is to collect any spider drops that happen to fall from spiders that are killed on this side before reaching the magma. And that can happen if enough spiders are over the magma blocks that the spiders coming behind can't fit yet, and they may drown in the water. So we catch all their drops into either this hopper or the hopper minecarts underneath the magma blocks. Next, we're going to want to cap this off, but not completely, as you'll see. So we're going to put 3 blocks here, and then we are going to put blocks all the way around the outermost layer like this. And now the spider kill zone is pretty much complete. So spiders are going to fall down here, and then they're going to be pushed towards the magma blocks, and they're going to die on the magma blocks or be pushed into one of the chambers or stuck back here and drown. And then all of their drops are going to go into one of the hoppers, either this one or one of the hopper minecarts under the magma blocks. And that's that. So finally, we're just going to want to build up a little area here for the spiders to fall. And we're going to want to check our coordinates because we're going to build this all the way up to level 212. And now you can see that we are at level 212, so the spider catchment and killing zone are all complete. So next we're going to want to fall down to our main platform again. One other important thing to mention is that I had 8 signs around here, but you actually only need these 7. You don't need the one here because there's no water flowing over this hopper here. Now our next step is to create the catchment and kill zone for the 1 wide mobs. So that would be the zombies, the skeletons, the witches, and the creepers. To do that, we're first going to want to remove these 3 scaffolding pieces that we placed before, and we're going to bring some hoppers around like this. And you should have 1 hopper left, and that goes on top of this last hopper here. Next, you're going to want to grab out your quartz slabs, and we're going to place them on top of these hoppers like this. And we're just doing this to prevent any unnecessary lag. I don't know if it actually still lags like it used to in this scenario, but better safe than sorry, right? And finally, we're going to want to place a few slabs on top of this. 1 there, and 2 more here and here. And then we can get rid of this block here. And we also want to place our 1 torch on top over here. Now I've got 5 extra slabs. These aren't actually necessary, but I've got them set up around the area like this, just to have a little bit more of a comfortable platform to stand on. And now we can start building the killing chamber. So we're going to want glass up like this, and that. We're also going to want a couple on the back side as well. And then we're going to want to come up 2 more on each side like this. And we should be hitting the spider catchment area at the top here, and come out actually by 2 this direction. And make sure you have the ceiling piece in here. And then we have 5 blocks across, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And we want to surround this with glass as well. And make sure to cap it off as well, except the last block here. Next, we're going to want to place a sign right there. And then we're going to want to create a temporary infinite water source right here with our 2 buckets. 1 there, and 1 there, and grab 1 out of the middle, and the other out of the middle. place a water source here, refill our water bucket, and then fill in the infinite water source, and remove the scaffolding blocks. And as you can see, the water is going to push the mobs right down into the killing chamber, which is exactly what we want. Now, in order to get out of here, I'm going to go ahead and break this block because we don't want to cover up this water source here. There we go. And get up on top like so. Next, you're going to want to build this chute, and you want to build it all the way up to level 209. So let's go ahead and put on our F3. And as you can see, here we are at level 209, and I left these two areas without the two top blocks because these are the directions that the mobs are going to be coming from into the chute. Now these chambers are going to be 8 long apiece, so we're actually not going to need any signs to block water because water flows 8 blocks, including the source. So we got 4 there, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then we want to build up the walls as well. And then as before, we're going to want to build a temporary infinite water source. We'll just go ahead and build it here at the end of this tunnel. And then we want to place a bucket here and one over here. Then we want to go ahead and cover up the infinite water source and get rid of the scaffolding blocks. And as you can see, our water sources funnel all the mobs down into this chute here. Finally, we want to put a ceiling on, but we don't need to put one over the water sources. So we'll go ahead and start at the corner here and just bring it all the way out except for the last one. And now we want these drop chutes to come up a total of 5 blocks. So we already have 3 down here at the bottom. So we want 2 more, like so. And we should be at the same level as the top of the spider chute as well. And you see that we are indeed. We also want to build up the chute 2 more on this side so that we have the 2 sides opposite the spider chute being built up, the 2 sides on the same side as the spider chute not being built up, because these are going to be where the mobs are flowing from the catchment area above. These collection areas are only going to be 4 long, so we got 1, 2, 3, 4. And beyond that, we want to build up walls. Then you want to place a sign here, and we want another infinite water source, so I'm actually going to make it right here. And then we want to place our buckets there and there. And that should funnel all the mobs from this side of the mob farm down all the way to our killing zone. Make sure you grab both your buckets of water here, but don't fill in the infinite water source just yet because we've only got half of this done. We've only got one side, so let's go to the other side over here and repeat the same process. And once you've got both sides done, like I have here, you can go ahead and fill in your temporary infinite water source and destroy the temporary blocks, like so. And what you should be left with is an area that looks like this. Now your 1 wide mobs are going to fall into one of these 4 slots here, and then be funneled down to our killing area down below. And our spiders are going to fall down here and be killed. And that's the hardest part done. So as you can see, we should have 33 signs remaining and 49 of the glass, which is the building material that we're using for mob movement. And next we're just going to build a temporary platform right here. This is going to be eventually the hole where the spiders drop through, but for now we're just going to build this to have an area to stand on. And then we're going to place our shulker box full of our ingredients for our catchment area, which is the part we're doing next. This is the area that the mobs are going to fall down from the spawning platforms. So we're going to want to count out 12 blocks in each direction from the center. So we got 1, 2, 3. We'll put a temporary scaffolding block here for 4. Remember, this is where the 1 wide mobs are going to fall down. 5, and then 7 more beyond that. And then we're going to repeat that on the 3 other sides. And you should have a big plus that looks like this. And then, not surprisingly, what we're going to want to do is connect these ends with diagonal lines. So we come in 1 like this, and over and down. And there's 1 diagonal line done, and we just repeat that 3 more times. And we should now have a diamond shape. Now all we need to do is fill in the rest of these gaps. And you should have a diamond that looks like this. Now you should have 52 building blocks as well as 56 slabs remaining, and with those we're going to start by building up one block out further from where we've already built. So like this. 1, 2, 3, and we're going to do this all the way around. Alright, and once you have that rim around, you're going to want to build one more rim, and this is going to be of bottom half slabs. So the way we're going to do that is, for example, we're going to place a few blocks like that, and then we want to place a half slab on the bottom half of that block, the bottom half of that block, bottom half of that block, and we're going to do that all the way around again. And believe it or not, that's the entire catchment area. Now all we have to do is place in the water, which is a little bit of a pain, but I'll go ahead and show you how to do that next. So our next step is to place in the signs. So first, we want for each of these a sign inside the hole, and then we want to place a sign on top of that using shift-click. That way we have a sign above the hole. And we're going to repeat that with the other 3 holes. Next, we'll go ahead and clear out the scaffolding from the middle here, and then we want to place signs along the edges here. Now for the last set of signs, I have 9. Technically we only need 8, but I think it's just easier to put signs above the whole 3x3 area here. But what you could do if you want is you could put a sign down here and then a sign on top and repeat that all the way around. That's 8 signs. Another thing that you could do is what I'll show you here. You could put 3 signs along here, 3 signs along here, and then you need 2 more signs, one here and one here. Now this last sign in the middle here is technically not necessary. That's why I said you only need 8, but we'll go ahead and place it anyway. Now you'll want to get out your 49 glass and start above the middle here. And we just want to go out by 3 more on either side so that it's a 7x7 glass area, which is why you need exactly 49. And the purpose of this setup is to separate the 1-wide mobs from the spiders. Now when we put in all the water, all the 1-wide mobs are going to be funneled into these 4 holes on the outside, and the spiders are all going to be funneled to the center too, but they can't fit through this, and so they're going to continue being pushed towards the 3x3 area in the center. And that's why we have these glass blocks here to prevent the 1-high mobs from making it any further in towards the center. So next we're going to want a temporary infinite water source, and I will go ahead and place it up here. And once we have our infinite water source, we're going to start by placing water in the interior like this. And those water streams are to catch any spiders that get pushed up towards this area here and continue pushing them in. Now they're also going to flow in from the corners here, but without these water streams in here, they could get stuck in this 3-wide area in here that wouldn't be pushing them inward. Now, once you've filled in those central water areas, our next step is going to be to fill out the outside. And we just built these temporary little walking platforms to make that easier. So let's go ahead and start by just filling in one at a time, like so. And now you can see the water is all the way around. The half slabs on the outside here serve 3 real purposes actually. One is to contain the water so that the water doesn't flow out over the other end of the platform. Another is to prevent mob spawns since they're on the bottom half slab. And the third, also since they're on the bottom half slab, any mob that happens to fall partway on that block but partway in the water stream will be pushed by the water stream still towards the center. Now, mobs actually landing on that outside layer are very, very rare. I've only ever seen that happen once or twice, and when they do, they get pushed by the water stream towards the center anyway. The reason why we place the water up higher but only on a 1 thick layer of diagonals is because if our diagonals were too thick, then they'd create infinite water sources in between in the corners, and those infinite water sources are steady water, so they wouldn't be flowing. Now there's one last little addition that we need to make to this whole water platform area, and that is, notice that these corners here don't have any water in them, but they should have flowing water in them for spiders. We want spiders to flow all the way into the center. So what we're going to do to rectify that is we're going to go ahead and remove one of the temporary scaffolding blocks here, and making sure it's perfectly in line with this corner, we're going to place a water source right in that bottom section there. What that does is it allows water to flow one extra block without creating an infinite water source here on the top and then flow down, and then it will continue flowing out 8 blocks and reach that corner, just like that. So now we want to repeat that 3 more times. And there we have it. Now we have water flowing to the center in all 4 corners. That's it actually for the catchment area. So we no longer need an infinite water source. And that is it for our additional water buckets. We only have the 13 now, 1 for each platform for the dispensers. And now that we've removed our temporary platform here, this is what our catchment area looks like when it's fully completed. So next, we're actually going to start building our spawning platforms. So in order to do that, we'll go ahead and grab out all of our blocks for building that. And all we need to do here is start in the center with a dispenser facing upward, and then build out the platform 7 blocks from that dispenser. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. And we're going to repeat that on the other 3 sides. And now that that's done, we just connect the edges with diagonals as we did before. So down 1, over 1, down 1, over 1, all the way to the end. And then we just repeat 3 more times. And finally, you guessed it, we fill in the remaining sections. And that's the first platform completed. Now we don't want to put any water in the dispenser just yet because we don't want to make any messes or have any problems with observers setting off the system before we're ready for it. So until the very end, we're going to leave water buckets out of the dispensers. Now we're going to build a couple temporary scaffolding towers in order to help us place all of our observer blocks and dispensers. So we're going to want to build 1 tower there and 1 tower there. And on this tower, we're going to put a ladder. And we're going to need to build these towers up to level 254. So let's go ahead and bring up our F3. And now, as you can see, we're at level 254. So next, we actually want to come all the way back down. Alright, now that we're back down, our next step is to go ahead and start placing dispensers facing up every 3 blocks. So 1, 2, 3, and 1 there. And once you have the dispensers every 3 blocks, on the way back down, you're going to want to place observers every 3 blocks. And the first one goes against the top tower like that. And they should all be facing downwards. Now for the second observer block and beyond, all you have to do is place them up against the dispenser like that. Now this last observer on the bottom is a little tricky because if you try to place it like that, it wants to face you. But we do have glass below us, remember, so we can go ahead and temporarily remove that block and place the observer, and then replace the red block there. And now we can go up and remove the tower on the back side of this, like this. And we'll also remove the ladder tower, like this. And what remains just represents the redstone that makes these spawning platforms work. So let's go ahead and start building the next spawning platform. So we're going to want to pillar up a couple blocks, place our first block there, go ahead and remove our temporary scaffolding blocks, and then, just like before, count out 7 from each of the central dispensers. And just as before, we're going to go ahead and fill in the rest of this diamond. And there's the second platform done. Now for the next platform, I'm going to go ahead and show you what to do if you don't have enough resources for all of the platforms and you want to make some of the platforms just temporarily out of order, but you want the whole system to still work. So all you have to do then is place 1 block at that location around each of the 4 sides of the dispenser. And just so it looks like that. Now that way the water actually comes out of the dispenser when it needs to, so that will trigger the observer dispenser chain. One thing to keep in mind that's very important is if you do want to save materials like this and only build out some platforms, make sure that these kinds of platforms, the temporary ones, start on the very bottom and work their way up. And all of your full platforms are from the top down. And the reason you want to keep that in mind is because if you have it set up like this, where you have a full spawning platform below a non-full spawning platform that's temporary, you will have Endermen spawning on this platform here, and Endermen are going to cause some problems because they can teleport onto the half slabs there, and they can just hang out and cause you to have reduced rates. And reduced spawn rates, of course, defeat the purpose. Now one other thing you're going to need to keep in mind is on top of these blocks you're also going to want something like a half slab or a dot of redstone, something to prevent mob spawns from occurring on these 4 spaces here. But since this was just for illustration purposes, I'm going to go ahead and continue the platforms all the rest of the way up. Alright, and that's the grindiest parts done. Now, depending on how fast you place blocks, that could take about a half an hour or so. So it's not too bad, but it's a little annoying after a while, just placing blocks like that. But that's it. Now also, for each level, you're going to want to have some torches down, and that's because we don't want mobs to spawn once we build the roof just yet, because we have a little bit more work to do placing in the buckets. So go ahead and place torches around like this. Now you're not going to have to worry about removing the torches because the water will do that once it starts flowing. But go ahead and put these on each level as well. And that's the last platform done. So our next step is going to be to start building the roof. So we're going to go ahead and scaffold up 2 blocks, get out our white shulker box, which is for our roof, and go ahead and get out all of the quartz slabs, like so. And we'll get out the rest of the materials too. And we'll start by putting 1 quartz slab on top of the scaffolding that we just placed. Go ahead and break the scaffolding. And then we want to go out by 21 blocks from the center. So this is 1, 2, etc. all the way out for 21 blocks. Alright, and that's 21. And then we want to repeat that 2 more times, not 3. And now we have 3 21 long platforms out from the center. On the 4th one I have temporarily just a 2 high block of quartz, and we'll discuss what to do on this side later. It doesn't matter which side it's on, just one of the 4 sides needs to have 2 high block quartz, and we'll deal with that later. For this section we're going to do the same thing that we've done down below with all of the other diamonds and build a diagonal connecting each of these. And there we go, there's 1 diagonal down, 1 more to go for now. And that's 2 diagonals down. Now, you guessed it, we need to fill in these sections. And just like that, we have half of our ceiling complete. Now, before we start building the other half, we want to go ahead and lay out where the redstone's going to go, because this is where our timer for the spawning platforms is going to go, and we want to get that in first. We're going to want full blocks, 10 out from the center. So 1, 2, 3, and 10. And then at the end here, we can go on either side and do 4 more full blocks. Like this. Next is probably the trickiest part. We actually want to fall down onto the top spawning platform, and we're going to have to build out from the end of the platform some temporary scaffolding. And here along the center line at the end, we'll place a temporary block there and place a top slab there. And then we're going to want a temporary scaffolding block right there and a sticky piston facing upward right there. We can get rid of that temporary scaffolding and then place another top slab right there. And then crucially, we also want a couple top half slabs here and here. The purpose of those is that those are going to block any sunlight from getting into this area once the piston extends, and sunlight is going to cause major lag spikes. And the lag spikes occur because the game has to recalculate daylight levels rapidly when the piston pulses, and we don't want that, so we want to make sure these top half slabs are all the way around the sticky piston in order to make sure that it is going to be dark down below. Finally, we want to scaffold our way back around. We actually need to place a block underneath that sticky piston there, because when it extends, then it lets light through itself. And so we're actually going to need to go down 1 more level and pillar out and stick a half slab underneath. Now that should stop the lag. Now to illustrate why this is a problem, we're currently directly under the sticky piston, and as you can see on the left, the light level's 9, and now it's 5, and it briefly changes to 15 as well. The 5 is normal because we are just far enough away from the edge that the light level should be 5 at this point, and then it should drop off to 0 by the time it gets to the spawning platforms. But light level 9 is when the piston is fully extended and it's letting light in, and light level 15 is while it's extending or retracting. And we don't want that, so all we have to do is place a half slab underneath, and now you can see the light level's back to 5, which is exactly what we want. Alright, with all our scaffolding removed, we'll go ahead and pillar back up to the rooftop. And we have one other thing that we need to get done here now while we still have the chance. We need to place the repeater going into this block here. And then we need to set it to a 4-tick delay. Now, I was having problems changing the repeater tick delay earlier when I was at the top of the world, but now I seem to be able to change it just fine, so I don't know what's up with that, but it's easiest just to change the tick delay right now while you still are able to stand on this sticky piston. But now that we have this set up, we can go ahead and take this roof out a few more blocks here on either side, and then around the back here, we're going to go ahead and place these slabs like this, and this will be a full block again. And next what we want to do is place another full block here, and then we want to go out 6 blocks in either direction. It doesn't matter, so we'll go ahead and go in this direction. 2, 3, and 6. And then we want to place another 6 alongside those, just outside of them. Now we'll go ahead and take all of our redstone and our 4 full blocks that are used for redstone circuitry. And let's start by placing 5 redstone along here. Then our repeater into that. One of our blocks goes here. We put another redstone dust there. Then we take our comparators and we place them facing into the block like this, 2 of them, and 2 of them facing the other direction like that. And then we place 2 more redstone dust along back here. And then we place another one of our full blocks there, and 2 more redstone dust like that. Next we want to place a full block here, and another full block there, with comparators facing into each of them, and 2 dots of redstone dust on the other side of the full blocks. Next we want to place 2 sticky pistons, both of them facing inward like that, and we want the full redstone block. Next we want to place a temporary scaffolding block here, so that we can place one of the hoppers sticking into it, and then get rid of the scaffolding, and face the other hopper into that one. Finally, we want to place 32 of our junk blocks, I'm just using ladders, into our hopper timer here, like that, and the system is running. Now, I had to actually place them in from this level here. If I tried to place them in from here, it tells me the height limit for building is 256 blocks. So that was the problem I was having earlier with the repeater, but I didn't seem to be having it this time. So let me quickly explain what's going on here. This is an etho hopper clock. The items go back and forth, pushing the redstone block back and forth. Now normally you take the signal out of the redstone block from one side or the other, but actually just taking it out of this block works just fine for us because we have a pulse limiter here. So the pulse limiter just sends one quick pulse through, which we lengthen to 4 ticks. The reason we need to set it to 4 ticks is because we need to get this comparator clock going, and it needs to have a long enough pulse to actually get started. But once it gets started, then it's a slow pulse that then continues to travel through here. And as you can now see, this signal is on for a small portion of time, and now it's off. And so that will turn the water streams on and then off at that same rate. And then it's off for longer for mobs to spawn on the platforms. So finally what we want to do is take our 3 torches and place them up here, because we don't want any mobs spawning on any of these single blocks up here, but we can't place them on top, so we have to place them on the sides. So we will place one here. We can't place one on there because it'll just get knocked off because the piston pushes it. So we will then place a second one here, and finally a third one can go over here. And that will make sure everything is well lit on top of the roof. Now that we have our redstone all figured out, all we need to do is go finish off the roof. And so we're going to finish it off just like we were doing before by taking diagonals from these central sections all the way to a central section over here. Now the central section over here is going to be 5 beyond the section we've already built. And remember, we want to drop it down a half slab so that mobs cannot spawn on top. 2, 3, 4, and 5. So now when we build our diagonals this way, we are actually going to run into the redstone, but it's not going to go any further, so it's fine, as you'll see here shortly. Now as you can see, this diagonal hits this redstone perfectly, so we can get up here and continue the diagonal this way. And now we have this diagonal complete. Now the other diagonal is going to be even easier because it won't even hit the redstone at all, so we'll go ahead and do that next. And that's both of those diagonals completed, and finally we just need to fill in all the blank spots in the middle. Alright, and the entire ceiling is complete, but the mob farm isn't quite done yet. There's a couple final tweaks that we need to make. So first of all, you'll notice I still have one redstone. That's going to go on top of this, but I'm not going to place it on top of here until we have all the water in. Second of all, we're actually going to have to break through all the way to the bottom. And here we are at the bottom. And now we want to place in our water buckets. So we just place one in the dispenser. Doesn't matter where in the dispenser. And then we pillar up, break the pillar, replace the block, and do it again. Rinse and repeat. Okay, now that we've got all the water buckets in, we pillar back up to the roof one last time. Make sure to knock out the 2 scaffolding blocks, place our last quartz slab there, and then all we're going to need to do is place the redstone on this to start the system going. But we want to wait until we have a redstone signal like that, and then place it. If we place it when it's off, then it's going to start the water buckets going when the signal is off, and then the water buckets will retract when it's back on, and it's on for a shorter period than it's off. And that's it. The system is fully operational. All we have to do now is leap off, and ladder back up. And as you recall, we built that pillar sticking out from the front side of our main area, and that's the side that we want to ladder up from. And here we are, and let's go ahead and break this temporary scaffolding here and place our last ladder there on our yellow block, and we have made it up to the top. Let's go ahead and finally get rid of these last bits of scaffolding here, and there we have it, and we are good to go. So now I've gone ahead and gone into creative mode just to where we can fly up a little bit and see the mob farm in action and make sure that everything's working just fine. As you can see in this section here, spiders can actually get caught, but they tend to get jostled around pretty quickly by other spiders or other mobs like that. And you can see the sorting mechanism that sorts the 1 wide mobs from the 2 wide mobs works just fine. Spiders also try to climb sometimes on the innermost area there, but once they reach the top, they hit the water stream that pushes them back in, and eventually they fall down too. Spiders do not tend to hang out very long at all in this system, which is one of the main points of this system, because spiders tend to like to climb and take up the mob cap and prevent rates from being as good as they otherwise would be. But you can see here's the rest of the system, and there goes the water streams pushing all the mobs out and down and collecting, and then in they go. And finally, just at the end, I'm going to show a 1-minute long time lapse showing the mob farm in action, based on 8 minutes of real-time spawning. Enjoy! Thanks for watching, and have a great day!